Take a look. They were mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, sons, and daughters. Each life cut tragically short. 11 Alive's Paulo Suro is live in Cherokee County tonight with one man's story who was gunned down nearly a week ago.
Yeah, a close family friend tells me Paul Michaels had been unemployed for a little bit and finally found his purpose, his motivation and happiness again when he started doing handiwork here at the spa behind me to make ends meet. And last week, the friend tells me that he was working on putting up shelves and working on the security system here when he was fatally shot.
I can't wrap my head around it. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, I guess is the best way to say it, unfortunately.
When Paul Michaels was shot to death last week, Kikiana Whidbey lost a best friend and her son's godfather. She says the world also lost an ambitious, hardworking, outgoing family man who was larger than life.
Everywhere he went, he had to make sure that you had a smile.
He was an Army veteran, a brother to 8 siblings, and a husband to Bonnie for more than 20 years. The 54-year-old who owned a security systems business had dreams of switching his career path, a dream cut short.
I forgive, but there won't be any forgetting. He has to pay for what he's done and the lives that he's ruined, and he took one really special one. I think all of them are probably special.
For Whidbey, this grief is all too familiar after losing her husband and son 2 decades ago. Paul and his family helped her through that loss, and now she is helping Bonnie.
For her, it's going to be a hard road because that's all she's known.
Whidbey says for her, the light at the end of the tunnel is knowing that her husband, her son, and Paul are back together again.
I actually did give my son his last name, their last name. It was kind of a way of honoring them for everything that they were doing for me.
Now, Whidbey also says that Paul, his wife, and the owner of the spa here behind me, who also died in the shooting, were growing very close. They would even have dinners together and called each other an extended family. Of course, there are many GoFundMe pages for the victims and their families. We've got a list of those on 11alive.com.
Paula, thank you so much for sharing those stories. Thank you. Well, adding to the hurt the victims' families and the community are feeling right now is that the shootings have not been labeled a hate crime. Today, federal officials told NBC News that there is not enough evidence to bring federal hate crime charges against the suspect, Robert Aaron Long. We talked to our legal analyst, Paige Pate, about why this is a waiting game to determine if a federal hate crime charge will even be considered.
Normally, the federal government is not going to prosecute a hate crime unless the person does not get prosecuted at all under state law, or whatever treatment the person receives is just not sufficient. So in this case, it would totally be expected for the federal government to wait and see what happens in Georgia.
Police say Long, who is white, claims the attacks were not racially motivated, but most of the victims were Asian and all but one were women. Under both Georgia and federal law, race and gender are possible bias motivations for hate crimes.
And you know, Jennifer,